Tesla's rebellious streak came in rebelling against the whole of established science at the time. It was thought that there was no way to harness alternating current and ever make it practical.
From Nikola Tesla's discovery of free energy to Grebennikov's anti-gravity vision, decisive powers around the world succeeded in silencing numerous groundbreaking inventions that would have changed everything. And they always had an excuse for cancellation. But would our lives be easier if these inventions weren't forbidden? What happened to their creators? Join us as we explore the rise and fall of 6 forbidden innovations that were silenced. Number 1. Attacked by the underground bee kingdom born in Russia. Viktor Grebennikov had a weird fascination for the human world, especially insects. It was like he was trying to see through them. He studied insects at every chance he got, writing something new about them as he explored them. Viktor believed that the insect had extraordinary powers, including anti-gravity. They were tiny little things, so nobody would assume anything. But how did he conceive the idea? Back in the 80s, Viktor was camping out in the Siberian steppe. Then he lay on the ground in a bid to watch the skies when he felt a tingling sensation. He quickly stood up and turned to check what it was, and he got the shock of his life. He had been lying against an underground bee kingdom. The next minute, Viktor was fighting headaches, ear banging, and metallic taste in the mouth. He looked around again to see their structure. How did they create their kingdom? Viktor was intrigued. He'd never seen anything like that. Then, Viktor decided to know more about them. Before leaving, he took parts of the bee nest and began his experiments. Grebennikov closely observed the bees and how they moved. He noticed a bizarre heat emanation from the nest structure when he placed his hands over the honeycomb. This heat phenomenon was unlikely to be detected by established scientific instruments. So, Viktor drafted a theory. He concluded that the unusual heat was produced by a force only generated by the unique structure of the honeycomb. According to Viktor's theory, the effect of this force field could translate to its immediate surroundings in ways that science could not understand. But if the heat from the honeycomb had a noticeable thermal effect, how did the bees survive? Viktor decided to learn more about his discovery and about how the bees survived their home. So he took their outer shells, and he also took shells from other insects. After examining them, Grebennikov's jaw dropped. He had discovered something that no scientist would discover in a million years. Viktor noticed an unusual and well-coordinated rhythm. What if this force field created by the honeycomb-like structures could defy gravity? Then Viktor tried something. He placed 2 of these insect shells together to see what would happen. Immediately, he placed them together, and one of the shells hovered in the air before placing itself across the first shell. Viktor was amazed. It was unbelievable. This was the first step in observing the anti-gravity properties of certain natural structures. Driven by the excitement of his findings, Grebennikov was sure had found something revolutionary and a phenomenon that could transcend into human use. He decided to embark on a project to create an anti-gravitational vehicle for humans. Viktor wanted to do something complicated, but his years of research led him to build a simple wooden medium embedded with hundreds of chitin shells from insects below the platform. After creating the anti-gravity vehicle, Grebennikov claimed that the vehicle could move at a speed of 1,500 kilometers per hour and reach heights of 300 meters off the ground. But that was not all the vehicle could do. Grebennikov also claimed that any rider on the anti-gravity vehicle becomes invisible from below, and the vehicle takes them away enclosed in a force field bubble. It sounded like paranormal equipment, but Viktor meant that the rider of the device would experience no inertial effects or dynamic pressure. Despite his unimaginable claims, Grebennikov had a hard time getting recognition for his discovery or even acceptance. He faced opposition and skepticism from the scientific world. Nobody knows if they could not imagine anything like that, or if they were scared about the implications of the project. Either way, Grebennikov's project was rejected. Maybe his status as an entomologist also contributed because which scientists studied insects, but Grebennikov was determined. He felt the world should know about his discovery and the scientific world should investigate, so he filed a patent, and it was immediately denied. Was Viktor's invention a threat to the existing scientific establishment? Against all odds, Grebennikov resorted to another strategy. He decided to make a book about his discovery and let the world do an investigation. He detailed his invention and the principle behind it, outlining each milestone with many colored images, and he sent his draft to the publishers. What they did next would shock you. In a turn of events that leaves more questions than answers, the publishers edited the whole book just before its release, removing hundreds of images and important details. These images and information were important for setting the foundation for understanding the anti-gravity vehicle project. Why did they edit the book? Were they affected by external influences? Did Grebennikov have a fallout with the scientific establishment just before his discovery? Was his project deemed too dangerous to be allowed into the public domain? The questions are endless. Like Grebennikov, the radiant energy device inventor faced a similar terrible fate in the fight for his invention. Number 2. Device that could harness cosmic energy. In the 1930s, just when the world started seeing a significant breakthrough in scientific discoveries, an American inventor, Henry T. Morey, dropped a bombshell. He had created a device that could absorb and use the energy of the cosmos. At that time, space exploration was unheard of. Morey called his invention the radiant energy device, but many scientists were waiting for him to prove his outrageous claims. Using advanced ideas in solid-state detectors, he developed a power source that he claimed to produce 50,000 watts. Morey was sure that his revolutionary device could potentially provide an unlimited source of energy for humans. However, the government and the scientific establishment deemed it unsuitable for recognition after he had demonstrated his invention repeatedly. Morey was a young electrical engineer from Salt Lake, Utah, who was obsessed with Nikola Tesla, a revolutionary genius. He wanted to know more about Tesla's claims of an energy source greater than ordinary electricity. He was ready to find out more, so he started researching energy. From his research, he theorized that the space around us is filled with a top form of energy that could be inexhaustible if used well. In a bid to confirm his theory, Morey developed an elementary device that produced progressive electrical power, using conductors, capacitors, and other electrical components. In the 1920s and 1930s, he steadily improved his devices, particularly a semiconductor valve he claimed could absorb radiant energy from space and convert it to high-voltage electricity. Morey also claimed that the device was not breaking any law of thermodynamics, as it was only converting energy from one form to another. The electrical engineer was determined to showcase his invention to the world, so he used his device at any chance he got. He demonstrated his device in front of witnesses, technicians, laboratory attendants, physicists, you name them, and they saw that he could harness energy without any external power source. Despite Morey's conviction and proof, the scientific community was indifferent about the project. They did not believe his claims, but Morey would not give up. He was willing to prove his theory anywhere. Critics claimed that his theory and device were not properly explained or documented. Who knows what they were looking for? Or maybe they were scared of the implications of the project and never wanted it to come to light. Some scientists said that Morey's project lacked the regular theoretical framework that could be backed by physics. Although Morey proved his device, he withheld some information, citing intellectual property and potential for misuse. Out of the blue, Morey claimed that his work had attracted influential men who tried to suppress his invention. He also claimed that he was being persecuted because the scientific community knew that his work could change the world. He said he was threatened, and the powers that be had his laboratory ransacked and damaged his equipment in a bid to stop his research. But Morey was not giving up. He was a fighter. Years went by, and Morey continued championing the call for the invention of his device. He was also working to refine the device. However, Morey could not acquire the financial and market support he needed for his invention. The U.S. Patent Office refused to grant Morey a patent, first, because his device used a cold cathode in the tubes. The patent examiner contended it was common knowledge that a heated cathode was necessary to obtain electrons, and second, because he failed to identify the source of the energy. The Patent Office brought all sorts of energy devices that had been established, claiming that Morey had duplicated parts of these devices. But Morey was patient enough to counter every claim made by the patent. However, the patent was never granted till today, and Morey's project remained in the shadows after he died. His family, especially his son John Morey, who operates the Research Institute in Salt Lake City, has been trying to continue his father's work since the basic unit was destroyed. Getting arrested for the possession of hemp seems logical because of its properties. But how would you feel if you were caught driving a car made from weed? Number 3. Creating a car made of weed. In the 1940s, at the peak of World War II and the slow rise of the industrial era, Henry Ford had a vision. He wanted to create a revolutionary vehicle that was lighter and more fuel-efficient. His thoughts were very different from the automobile producers at that time, but most importantly, Ford thought about preserving the environment. He was a big climate change activist long before it became a trend. In building his revolutionary vehicle, Ford not only wanted biomass to be the primary fuel, he also wanted the body of the car to be built with hemp. Can you imagine a car made of weed? Would the cops ever stop you for weed possession if your car was weed? The idea was something nobody had thought about. Ford knew that the rise of the industrial era would damage the environment, so he clamored for the integration of agriculture with industrial production. According to him, the farms could serve as a top source of raw materials for production. In a bid to convince American society, Ford decided to integrate agriculture into his production. The car's body was made from a mixture of hemp fibers, soybean straw, and resin, while the chassis was made from a combination of hemp and steel. This combination resulted in the production of a lightweight, durable, and cost-effective vehicle. The composite material also boasted a tensile strength of 10 times that of steel. This invention would prove to be safer than the average American car at that time. The vehicle was also powered by hemp ethanol fuel. At the time, ethanol was already a common fuel source for cars, but it was usually made from corn or sugarcane. The use of the hemp biofuel was to activate clean burning and reduce harmful emissions of gasoline into the environment. In 1941, Ford unveiled the hemp, and it drew considerable attention across the world. Many people traveled to know what the hemp car was about. Talking about the car to his audience, Ford pointed out its properties and how he knew that the car was stronger than the average steel car. He took a sledgehammer to the car and started hitting it, demonstrating its strength to the world. The hemp car took the hits like a champ. No significant damage was recorded, but despite its economic and environmental benefits, hemp's idea was thrown into an underground prison and left to rot. The hemp car found itself in the shadows, covered by the rise of petroleum and various governmental factors. At that time, petroleum, at the pinnacle of the non-renewable energy sources, was the lifeline of the global industry. This made it hard for alternative sources of fuel to be accepted. The government was not so keen on Ford's idea as it could negatively impact their businesses. However, the major raw material, hemp, also played a significant role in the project's extinction. Hemp was the primary source of marijuana and other substances associated with psycho-related behaviors. If you were driving a car made from weed, would you be hyperactive? The use of hemp ethanol fuel was heavily restricted, and Ford's hemp project fell off altogether. Mother Nature is a mystery, and you can get life and destruction from it. Schauberger's discovery of vortex dynamics was groundbreaking. But did it cause more harm than good? Did he wish he never shared his invention with the world? Number 4. The man that copied nature. Legendary Austrian forester Victor Schauberger spent a huge part of his life studying the natural environment and the dynamics of the flow of water. Rather than securing a formal education in Vienna, he decided to learn from the forests. His observations and theories have led other scientists to believe they were associated with perpetual motion. Schauberger's theory proposed a machine that could operate indefinitely without the influence of an external source of energy. But Schauberger never claimed to invent perpetual motion. He just wanted to study and harness the natural power of the flow of water and the movement of the earth. During his lifetime of study, Schauberger observed nature's motion in his theories. Determined to pursue his passion for nature, Victor attended the Secondary School of Forestry, where he achieved state certification as a forest warden. Prevailing technology uses the wrong forms of motion. It is based on entropy, on motions that nature uses to break down and scatter materials. Nature uses a different type of motion for creating order and new growth, he wrote. Schauberger focused on vortices in water. He believed that many engineers like him only wanted to form something out of nothing, instead of taking advantage of the natural environment. According to him, the flow of water could lead to energy generation for human activities without the degradation of the environment. His famous quote was to understand nature, copy nature, repeating his bold philosophy about his knowledge of the environment. In one of Schauberger's theories, he argued that water, when allowed to flow down in a vortex, can create its energy through implosion, as opposed to combustion-based technology. Schauberger noticed that the flow of water is characterized by spiraling motions that are constant, never stopping. He also understood that the constant flow of water prevented the water bodies from being stagnant and a breeding site for dangerous parasitic activities. Using the natural water phenomenon, Schauberger invented devices to produce natural energy or propulsion. For example, Schauberger invented a repulsine also known as the flying saucer, whose working principle used the implosion effect. The repulsine was designed to develop propulsion through a series of structural wave-like patterns that would create a vortex of air or water and simulate the implosion effect. Schauberger's work attracted the Nazis during World War II, and there are allegations that he was forced to develop military weapons using his theories. Schauberger did not want to do it, and those were moments he was trying to forget. But the coercion warned him of the potential misuse of his discovery. He became determined to find ways to restore the Earth and bring balance to the natural world. After the war, he dedicated his life to researching and developing innovative solutions to help heal the Earth, but he still did not get his intended recognition for his research. In the late 1950s, Schauberger was arrested and taken into custody by the United States Intelligence Agency. Then, the controversy surrounding his research intensified. What did he do to anger the United States? What did they want from him? The U.S. Intelligence Agency held him for 9 months, seizing all his research documents and prototype. He was also questioned about his military inventions and activities during the war. Before Victor returned to Austria, his works and documents became the property of the United States through deception. However, his inventions were suppressed as they were deemed to create a huge disruption in the scientific, economic, and political order. Imagine flying the world in a small pod across every direction like the movies. With the WASP-X project, we all could have lived our Supergirl dream, but something terrible happened. Number 5. Flying jet. Controlled by Leaning the Williams, X-Jet was created at a time when the world started exploring atmospheric motion. Created by Williams International, it was a small, single-person, lightweight, vertical takeoff and landing aircraft powered by a modified Williams F-107 turbofan aircraft engine. At that time, Williams International was already known for its turbine engineering prowess. The X-Jet was also known as the William Aerial System Platform, or the WASP. It was a groundbreaking technology from simply harnessing atmospheric motion. The X-Jet was nicknamed the Flying Pulpit because its shape could carry only one operator at a time. But the bizarre part of this invention was that the controller could only travel leaning towards the direction of his destination. No vehicle on Earth can do that. Every car, bus, truck, airplane, and even ship has a control board. You can never control the direction by just leaning toward it. How can you lean to your destination in the air? It was like the travel mechanism of a natural bird. The first crewed, untethered flight was conducted in April 1980. Ray Legrand was one of the WASP-2 operators trained by Williams International to fly the X-Jet. The X project was a revolution. It could move in any direction, accelerate rapidly, hover and rotate on its axis, stay in the air for up to 45 minutes, and travel at speeds up to 60 miles per hour. It was a brilliant means of personal transportation, but not everybody thought so. In the 1980s, the U.S. Army evaluated the X-Jet to see if it could be incorporated into the field. But surprisingly, they found it inferior to the capabilities of helicopters and small, uncrewed aircraft, and so on. They were looking for enhanced mobility, something better than what they already had with their small planes. The U.S. Army concluded that the X-Jet's capacity was limited when compared to helicopters and UAVs. They also noted the free-fire structure of the X-Jet. The whole body of a soldier using the X-Jet was out in the open. If anything happens, he would take easy fire. The Army also claimed that the X-Jet setup was too expensive and relatively hard to fly as compared to their already established aircraft and evolving technology. It may seem easy to lean in any direction, but the idea of flying the world on a little shed would make the controls harder. So the U.S. Army decided to use their resources to make their air fleet much better. Although the X-Jet has been pushed to the sidelines, it has not been suppressed. Engineering and scientific authorities in the United States are still looking for ways to modify the turbine phenomenon and use it to build something extraordinary. Engineering is simply thinking outside the box or in the box to proffer solutions, but there are mysteries that even science cannot give a logical explanation. The Coral Castle is one. Number 6. Moving large stones like magnets. The Coral Castle is an oolite limestone structure located in the territory of Homestead, Florida. It is one of the most mysterious man-made architecture in the world that leaves you trying to find out more about the architect. It was solely created by a Latvian-American eccentric, Edward Leedskalnin, from 1923 to 1951. The coral castle weighs about 1,100 tons. The structure comprises numerous large stones, each weighing several tons, and sculpted into a variety of shapes, including slab walls, tables, chairs, a crescent moon, a water fountain, and a sundial. But the question remains, how did Leeds-Kalnin single-handedly craft a mind-blowing structure from large stones? Legends speculate that Leeds-Kalnin used reverse magnetism or supernatural abilities to move and carve the stones. But what was going on in his head? Leeds-Kalnin was only 26 and heartbroken when he was suddenly rejected by his 16-year-old fiancée Agnes Skuvst in Latvia just one day before the wedding. Did his broken heart propel his discovery? Leeds-Kalnin decided to leave Latvia for the United States, where he was diagnosed with terminal tuberculosis. But Edward was miraculously healed, and he claimed he cured himself using magnets. After he was healed, he began to build the Coral Castle. Leeds-Kalnin initially named the place Rock Gate Park, dedicating it to his lost love. But the mystery lay in the patterns and the untold story of how the castle was built. Standing at just over 5 feet tall and weighing 100 pounds, Leeds-Kalnin began building the castle alone, away from the prying eyes of passers-by. He worked mostly at night, refusing to let anyone see what he was building or how he was building it. He claimed to know the secret of the Egypt pyramids, which helped him to mysteriously move and sculpt large stones. How did a young man weighing just 100 pounds succeed in moving a large stone that weighed about 30 tons? Some children who passed by the castle while it was being constructed gave a bizarre answer to the question. According to them, they had seen Leeds-Kalnin using his hands to control the motion of the stones, like one with supernatural powers. Some reported that he had caused the blocks of coral to move like hydrogen balloons. Scientists speculated that he used an ancient technology that was unheard of and had not been explored. Offering a vague explanation for his mysterious architecture, Leeds-Kalnin once said that he used a perpetual motion holder. He also claimed that he had studied the phenomenon of weight and motion, and he used the knowledge to lift and move the stones. Some old photographs and videos also showed him using tripods made from wood to carry large stones. But the stones at the Coral Castle seemed bigger, and scientists speculated that Leeds-Kalnin had applied his understanding of electromagnetic forces. Leeds-Kalnin had published a pamphlet talking about electromagnetic current, so it was widely believed that the Coral Castle had everything to do with the electromagnetic field. According to Leeds-Kalnin, all matter on Earth possessed individual magnets that could be harnessed to achieve the impossible. He was referring to the magnificent Coral Castle. But as scientists and archaeologists tried to stamp their theories, no evidence could prove how one lanky man could single-handedly lift stones that could kill him in one moment. To understand the severity of Leeds-Kalnin's mystery, let's look at the insane pattern of the Coral Castle structure. The Coral Castle stones are made of polite and are bizarrely attached without mortar. Leeds-Kalnin leveraged their weight to keep them together. Around the coral ground are 8-foot-tall vertical stones, and they mysteriously have uniform height. How can a human be so precise? Leeds-Kalnin was probably a machine or paranormal. He built the castle like a house with numerous pieces of furniture. He had a heart-shaped table, a table in the shape of Florida, 25 rocking chairs, chairs resembling crescent moons, a bathtub, beds, and a throne. The jaw-dropping part of the castle is its revolving door. It is unimaginable that one man would build a revolving stone door, standing at about 8 feet tall and weighing approximately 8 tons. Visitors of the castle claimed that a child could push the door once and it would open. It was unbelievable. Today, the Coral Castle is a monumental structure used as a museum and tourist attraction. Individuals from various parts of the United States and around the world cons to bask in its mystery and beauty. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see similar inventions and scientific videos.